All right, so this is another prototype build. This time around, I want to build something for making dovetails on a table saw. It's not a single jig type thing. What I have in mind and what I want to try to do is build two sleds, I guess you could call them, that one will make the tails cut, and then the other one will make the pins cut. So to get started, I'm going to take this piece of scrap plywood here, it's 1/2 inch, and I'm going to cut it to 12 inches long on the table saw. The cut I'm about to make is not recommended, but I know what I'm doing here, so it's fine, I'm safe. I'll tell you why I'm fine and I'm safe is because I'm holding it up tight against the saw and I'm not letting it rack. If you let it twist as it's going through the saw, it will bind there and it will kick back. So stop it from doing that. This one is different from a lot of the ones that I've done before in that I've not done any planning beforehand on it. I just, it occurred to me while I was building this. This is my mini table saw sled. I made a build video for this and I posted it on my main channel. There's a link in the description if you want to go see that. I had a lot of people ask about this, whether there was a build video for it. So there wasn't. I just made a website article, but I figured, it's a good idea to have the build video too, since so many are asking for it. Anyway, so I've got this piece of plywood here. Not sure if it's ideal. I know I need one runner. The idea is that it's going to have one runner that fits over in this slot here. And then when you want to make the other cut, you'll be able to turn it around and it'll fit in this opposite slot over here. Now my slots are offset. I think this one is 4 inches from the blade. The other one is 4.5 inches from the blade. And that works out well because then you don't, you're not cutting away all the material in between. So I just got to cut this piece of maple to fit better in this slot. Then I can attach it to the base. I also cut the other runner to the same width so that it fits there because I need two sleds. I might as well do it now. And I cut it down so that it fits down in the slot and is flush with the top here. Drilled a couple of countersinks in the plywood here, and I'm going to drive screws down through the plywood into the cleat underneath. Normally I would glue that and then do this afterwards, but just trying to get this done. It works anyway. Okay. Move the fence back out of the way, and you can see the way that works. I need a fence that's basically right in the middle of this, so I'm going to use this piece of plywood. It's a little long, so I'll cut it off on the miter saw, and then I'll screw it in place onto the base of the jig. Okay, got the two screws put in to hold the fence in place, and they're well out of the cutting path. I'll make sure that 2 screws will hold it too. That should be okay. I want to check to make sure that the fence itself is relatively square. Looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks okay. It doesn't have to be, 100% perfect for these kinds of things, since this is just a prototype. All right, now, one thing I did give some thought to was the angle. All right, dovetails come in many different angles, some as shallow as 7 degrees, and they go right up to 14, 15, sometimes even 20 degrees. I've settled on 10 degrees as kind of the happy medium. The problem with this 7-degree one, even though it's easier to do with this method, it doesn't look enough like a dovetail to be easily perceived. You want to look at the thing and see a dovetail immediately. Some people don't, recognize the lines if they're that far or that close to parallel. Anyway, so 10 degrees is good. It's easy to remember too. At least for me, I won't screw up. So I'm going to change the angle of my blade. I got to remove this insert here. Change the angle of my blade to 10 degrees to match that. I'm going to make my first cut this way, and then I'm going to turn the jig around, put it in the other slot, and make the other cut. Okay, well, it'd be better if my saw tipped the other way, actually, this way rather than that. But this will work. The one problem I see is that there's quite a bit of flexibility here now, and I think I need to add a couple more screws here just to stiffen it up. All right, just as a test, I've got a piece of 1/2-inch plywood cut out, and I've marked out the typical, spacing for the pins on here. Okay, well, as you can see, there's nothing automatic about this. You have to line everything up by eye. But I think that, okay, if you have a lot of these to do, it'll probably get a little bit tedious. Probably be better off to have a dedicated, jig with the router or whatever. But if you have 1 or 2 of these to do for a special project, and you don't want to stay there all day chipping these things out, you just want to take maybe a couple minutes afterwards and clean up, any raggedness on the end there, which is not very bad. Just realize that the jig doesn't have to be reversible, doesn't have to go in the other slot. All I need to do is flip the stock around to make the other part of the cut. That's, the result of not doing any thinking beforehand. Otherwise, that would occur to me. So that simplifies this a little bit. Now that I've got the tails cut, I can lay out the pins. I'll do that on a piece of 3/4-inch stock because that's what this looks like it is. I think, yeah, this as well as 5/8. So 3/4-inch stock will do. So I've got a piece of pine and I cut it down to the same width as this. I also thinned it down to match that better. Figure that will work out well. The idea here, again with the idea, is that I'll take the tails, line it up with this, and then just transfer the, the marks down to that, to the face of that, and then I should be able to make the cuts on the sled that I haven't made yet. I've already started on the other jig, mainly by thinking about it for a little bit, so I wouldn't do any more embarrassing things like I did last time. I determined that it has to be like this type thing, a V-shape thing, one runner. This one will be reversed though. Basically, you'll cut one side one way, and then you'll turn it around and put it in the other slot and cut the other side. So I've got my little homemade protractor here, and I'm laying out the 10-degree angle. These things are on a 10-degree, slope that way. And that matches the angle of the dovetail. So anyway, I'll clamp that up and I'll get a couple screws in that, and then we can give this one a try as well. Okay, the moment of truth. Okay, I can see I messed up here a little bit. I didn't mark it exactly right, so that they're not positioned correctly. I don't know exactly what I did wrong there, but they should still go together, hopefully. Just offset like this. Yeah, it's gonna be a tight fit because I didn't do any cleanup here with the chisel, but it doesn't look bad. For what it is, very roughly made and quickly put together jig. Other than the marking problem, and I got a little bit of a gap over here. But if you have a finer pencil or even a marking knife, probably be better to lay these out a lot more accurately. Certainly beats cutting them by hand, though, that's for sure. So tell me what you think in the comments of this idea here. Is it worth pursuing? Would you be interested in plans for this thing? I know there are a lot of dovetail things out there, but nothing that I've seen that is this simple and this compact. If you've got two small sleds this size or smaller, this one can be this size, the other one can actually be smaller. I didn't realize. You tuck them away when you don't need them. If you're doing dovetails as rarely as I am, I really only made this up so that I can make a dovetail joint for some other reason. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.